Hey guys, Chris here with the Good Old Gamer. Happy Easter. I see some questions starting to roll in already, so I said, well, let's go ahead and get this started. So I wanted to go ahead. I can't really pronounce your name there, GGCHB guy. But will the Z390 have PCIe 4? I don't think so. I think it's a little early for that. I think we're going to be looking at probably 2020 before that really kicks in. Probably around the same time that we see DDR5 start to come in. So that's just my thoughts. There's really no basis around that other than the fact that it doesn't seem like that the standard is up to spec yet. So before we go into the questions, and that's pretty much what this is going to be, is just to make sure that the live stream is working better, settings are working properly. I felt really bad for Ozzy on the last live stream because we had a good conversation, but it was just hard for you guys to follow because it wasn't streamed properly. So if we have any kinks, please let me know. I'm going to be focusing a lot on the chat bar, and I want to make sure that everything goes smooth. But let's go ahead and check something out that kind of caught some attention here today. So over on Discord, somebody sent this over to me. Nvidia is saying GPP is officially over. Now, this is a really, really bad April Fool's joke. I mean, at the end of the video, he goes ahead, UFD Tech. I mean, he says that it's an April Fool's joke, but it felt really, really bad. About halfway through, I kind of figured that it was definitely going to be an April Fool's joke because of the fact that just the way that he worded it. But I was really hopeful there for a minute. I was like, oh man, this is great. This is good news. And of course, it's an April Fool's joke. So I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that. Nvidia is not rolling back their GPP, and they definitely wouldn't be apologizing to gamers in the community. So if you got suckered into that one, or if you saw the headline, I just wanted to clear that up. That is definitely an April Fool's joke. All right. So let's see. All right, so no other questions really coming in yet. Let's see, what else did we have? I had a couple other things going on. Is the stream coming out okay? That's really kind of what this is. This is almost like a test run, so I'm doing it on a holiday, just to make sure that we don't run into issues. Is this coming through okay to you guys? Yeah, got you too, Renee. Looks like got a couple of people. I woke up to that and I was just like, oh, come on. That would have been great. On the upside, looks like EA is backing down on Battlefront 2. So that's really good. So it looks like the community does have some influence, at least in some of the markets. It'd be really nice to see that happening with GPP as well. All right, stream is going good. Looks good. Excellent. What does my shirt say? Here, let me back on up. All right. Yeah, most of these shirts actually come from my brother and from my family members. They're usually gifts. I actually don't buy myself clothes very often. So this way they have things to buy me. Because if I go, hey, I want a, you know, like an RX 580 or a Vega 56 or whatever, or a new CPU, they have no idea what to actually get me. So clothes are a lot easier for them to do. So I just kind of leave that for them. All right, cool. So everybody says it looks like it's coming in good. So yeah, the issue on the last stream was I was trying to record the video at 20 megabits at 1080p while it was encoding for 720p at 3 megabits for upload. So that was the issue on the last one. So I kind of figured it would work out better when I'm not trying to record two basically separate videos off of one source at the same time. Yeah, that UFD Tech thing, that was good. It was really good up until about the end. The wording just did not didn't work out so good. I was like, no, Nvidia would never, ever say that. All right. Yeah, EA is a pretty bad company, and Battlefront 2 doesn't really matter that much anymore. But it's still nice to see that the community had an impact. Most of these major companies will just do whatever they want and then just ignore the community or forget about it and play stupid and move on to their next project. So it's good to see that we actually do have an effect if the community as a whole rallies together. And that's really what I think it comes down to. And that's the reason why I'm doing live streams and stuff now, is I think building a real community is really what we need to do. And I think that's really the future that we need to do. We need to band together because most of these companies don't have a lot of real competition. So if everybody's on the same page, real change can actually get done. 20 megabits, it's too high for streaming. It's not too high for recording. I record all my footage and stuff at 20 megabit, and then I edit it at that rate. This way it can, it comes out looking better. So that's why I record at a higher bit rate. Well, streams are always delayed. I mean, it's always going to be delayed. This isn't like a one-to-one. When I'm speaking, it takes a little while to get to you. So yes, comments will be a little bit behind. The 2600X, okay, let's just talk about Ryzen 2000 series. Renee brought it up. Personally, it's definitely not going to be worth upgrading. If you have a 1600X to a 2600X, you're going to get maybe 10% clock speed increase, and we're going to be looking at some better latencies. So it will be faster, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be worth investing in. Like, you're not going to see a large enough performance increase for it to be worth it. In reality, you'd be better off going to like a 2700X or a 2700 with the extra cores. That would be a bigger benefit than going, just for a couple extra 100 megahertz. 10% clock increase isn't going to be that big. And unfortunately, it looks like the new Ryzen chips, the power efficiency on the 12 nanometer just really isn't that great. So yeah, you'll gain a little bit of clock speed, but you might actually lose out. Because if we look at the 2700X, it's actually at 105 watt TDP to get there. So I don't know. We'll have to wait until they come out to really see the power consumption numbers. But thus far, I'm not really impressed because it looks like something that they could have actually done just on 14 nanometers. It looks like the 12 nanometers really isn't giving them too much of a gain. Nope, still running the i5. Still running my budget build. I kind of want to ride this thing till it dies, but I am picking up other hardware because of that last stream. I don't want to get people on here, and I don't want it working poorly. So I did pick up a 1600X. I got that pretty cheap. Newegg had the ASRock B350 Pro 4 motherboard. They had that for only $60. So I picked that up, and I bit the bullet and I bought some DDR4. 165 bucks for 16 gigabytes. It sucks. It sucks spending that much money on freaking RAM, but it had to be done. So I did. The motherboard came in yesterday, so I'll be putting that together here after this, actually, and then getting that up and running benchmarks, stability tests, and trying to overclock the memory as far as I can. Spiky Pup, yeah, if you're already running a Gen 1 Ryzen CPU, Zen 2, not Zen Plus, Zen 2, so the 3000 series, I think that might be worth the upgrade. In reality, I think that Ryzen, if you compare it to like an Intel, like how they feel, it's kind of like a first generation Core series, the Nahalims. Those were very good CPUs, they were great, but it felt you know, until Sandy Bridge came out, it felt like that there was room for improvement, and that's when they really hit their stride. And I really think that Zen 2 is going to be that for AMD. I think the 7nm process is going to balance things out between AMD and Intel. That's what AMD is claiming, that the differences in process will be very minimal. And the fact that we're going down to 7 nanometers, I also expect to see 8 CPU cores per CCX. So the consumer grade CPUs will likely only be running on 1 CCX. And then Threadrippers will obviously have 2. And I think that that's going to be really a huge change because they want Zen 2 on EPYC to be running at 64 cores. So if you do the math, you do 8 by 8, 2 CCXs on a die, 4 die, that gets you to 64 cores. So that seems very likely. As far as clock speeds and stuff go, I mean, there's nothing out there on 7 nanometer yet, so we have no idea where that's going to land. Yeah, X58's still kicking. I mean, a lot of people are using them and they work just fine. Joe actually has one for his secondary computer, and that thing's like 10 years old now, and it's working really well. So I think the Ryzen CPUs are going to last just as long. What's really nice is the fact that it's not Intel, and you don't have to buy a new motherboard every time that they come out with a new CPU. So what's really nice is, at least through Zen 2, I think the current motherboards will work. Possibly even Zen 3. I think Zen 3, there might be a new motherboard that'll have newer spec, like PCIe 4, maybe DDR5. I don't know, but they'll probably have it so it'll work on both. I mean, that's kind of the way that AMD tends to do things when there are changes, so that's pretty good. Yeah, 105 watts isn't too bad, but I don't know. I've become kind of picky because my computers I use as a Plex server, so they're running 24/7. So the lower the TDP can be, the happier I typically am. I'm actually really interested in the 2700, which should run 200 to 400 megahertz faster than the 1700, but still maintain 65 watts TDP. So that one I'm actually pretty interested in. How's it going, Muskie? Okay, that was actually going to be the next thing that I wanted to go into. Give me one sec here, and I'll pull up some stuff. And it's about GPU prices. All right, so over here on Newegg, I'm going to do a dedicated video to this like I did last month, just going over the GPU prices, and I'll actually compare them to the prices I had in that video. So this way we can see what kind of progress is being made. Prices are definitely going down. You can see RX 580, 8 gigabyte. You have $20 off promo code, so that's $380 plus a $20 rebate. So we're down to about $360. With the inflated RAM prices, these cards should probably be running around $300-ish. So you're looking at about a $60 premium if you count the rebate. So that's significantly better than where we were just 4 weeks ago. Comparing that to the GTX 1060, these ones are already a good bit cheaper. So you're looking at about $30 less if you go with the basic single fan model. And then about $10 less if you go with a refurb. But personally, I like the 2-fan solutions, so you're still looking at about $350. So the price between AMD and Nvidia is narrowing, but if we take a look at higher-end stuff, so let's take a look at the Vega 56, which this is actually the card that I'm probably going to pick up now that we have third-party models. Let's see, we got $720, and these guys have been running on sale, so they've been around $699, kind of like this right here, which honestly, on a Vega card, you either need to go water cool or something with at least 2 or 3 fans. I don't really like the blower style on these chips. But regardless, these have come down a lot. These were about $1,000 just a few weeks ago. Comparing that to the 1070 Ti, which is probably the most comparable, we're looking at about $600. So there's about a $100 difference between the two. Now, jumping over to eBay, the least expensive 588 gigabyte you can get, it's about $300-ish. With the fact that they're coming down so much at retail, is this worth buying? I probably wouldn't, considering you have no idea how these GPUs have been run. You don't know if they're from gamers. They're probably from miners. I would just go with the retail models, deal with the rebates, and pay a little bit more money. Now, if this was like $250, $200, I'd say hell yeah, buy these. They're still typically going to be under manufacturer warranty. So if there are any issues, you can just take care of it that way. And when you get them in from eBay, you can stress test the hell out of them. And if they fail, just basically tell eBay this thing's junk and they'll get you your money back. So it's a little bit of a hassle because it can tie up your money. But if you can get the price down low enough, yeah, going with even a used mining card's not so bad if you can get it for the right price. So that was probably a really long explanation on that, but I was going to go over that anyway. Somebody just happened to jump in there. The Varangian. Hey, what's up, Joe? Happy Easter, buddy. I was actually going to give you a call here in a little bit. I was talking to my family before. Let's see. What's your guess on overclocking limit of the new Ryzens? I actually think that they're going to clock higher than we're expecting, but I think the TDP and the power consumption is going to, kind of like with Intel, it's just going to jump off the charts. So I think they're going to get very hot, but I think they might get close to 5 gigahertz with a golden sample. But I do think that AMD is holding back their best die right now. I think that there is a 2800X, and they're just holding that back until the 8-core Intel chip comes out here soon. So that one will probably get to those really high clock speeds. The 2700Xs, probably 4.7, 4.8 at max. But like I said, you're just going to throw efficiency out the window, and it just depends on your use case. If you don't really care and you're just going for higher clocks and you want the fastest thing, you know, might as well go that way. The 2700X or 2700s will probably hit 4.4, 4.5, somewhere in there. So it just depends on the silicon lottery, but that's just my guess. We'll find out here in the not too distant future. Seems everybody's kind of in the same ballpark. Mid-4s is kind of what everybody's thinking. I actually think they'll go a little bit higher with proper cooling. Spiky Pup got himself Strix 480 for 220 bucks. That's a good deal. To me, I would buy that. And like I said, if you have any issues, throw it in there. Let it stress for 24 hours. If it works, great. If not, tell eBay and get your money back. Damn it, Joe. Quit spamming me. Plus, we'd make ugly babies. Nameless Hollow. Yeah, miners don't run the cards into the ground. You know, they want to make as much money off of them. They don't want them to fail. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like they take great care of their stuff, but they also don't take bad care of it. So, I don't know. I'd still rather go with new for about $60 difference or less. Like I said, you can get a RX 580 off Newegg right now, if you count the rebate, for $360, or you can get one for about $300 used. To me, it's worth the $60 to go with the new one. All right, somebody doesn't think the Ryzen can hit 5 gigahertz. When the 2800X comes out, we'll know for sure. I don't think that the 2700 or 2700X will get there. I really don't. Maybe the 2600X, because with the reduced core count, might have more overhead. So we'll just have to wait and see, because the 1600X could keep up with the 1800X typically. All right, so CyberClue, do you honestly believe that Nvidia will be releasing new cards this year, or just announce new cards for next year and maybe in maybe release an 1180 this year? It's getting weird. Honestly, there's so much information, so many rumors going on out there. about what's going on. Like, just the other day, I heard more about Ampere and Turing. Obviously, with RTX, they're really going to be wanting to push Volta, because that's kind of what they're basing RTX on. So there's all kinds of just weird little things that you have to take into consideration. Personally, I think that with the mining craze kind of going down, I don't know how much they're going to really want to invest into Turing. I think that they could get away with refreshing Pascal again and doing Ampere and Turing for the two separate markets. And I think that they could get away with that until 7 nanometers and then possibly release consumer Volta. So if I were Nvidia, that's probably what I would do. But like I said, it really comes down, they were very much hyping up RTX. And that means they need to get consumer Volta out. 12 nanometers doesn't look like they can do it for a reasonable price, so they'll likely, I would assume that they're going to wait until 7 nanometers, because that'll bring cost of production down. So we might get a refresh. They might just say screw it and keep Pascal and just not even bother. But considering they stopped producing GP102s about 6 months ago-ish, it seems unlikely that they would just stick with that unless they have a huge backstock. So right now, my honest answer to that is I don't know. We'll find out. At this point, just about anything can happen. But I do know that consumer Volta will have to be a thing in the not too distant future. All right, let's see. Yeah, 2020, I think the Ryzen 4000 series will come out. I think that lines up with their timeline. So that'd be Zen 3. Yeah, algorithm, yeah, so he went ahead and put in there, he's seeing 1600s. Oh, thank you, Aaron. Let me just finish that up real quick. So he said that he's seeing 1600s down for like 130, 140 bucks. Yeah, they're going to be liquidating. Like I said, I got the B350 ASRock board for $60. Free shipping. I mean, if you're looking at getting a new motherboard and CPU, you got to pony up for the RAM, but the AMD stuff is going super, super cheap. So I would definitely pick that up if you guys are in the market right now. Just look for those deals. All right, so let's see. Aaron Porter, let's see. Just want to say, love the channel. Keep turning the screws on companies that refuse to compete. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry mouth. Refuse to compete fairly. Here's a few bucks to help keep going. Thank you very much, buddy. That really does help me out. I actually quit my second job so I can do this more. Yesterday was my last day, so I will actually be free on weekends. So that really helps me out. My wife, luckily, she's wanting to take on more responsibilities. Bless her heart. She got herself a big pay increase, so hopefully we'll be okay. But every buck helps, and that helps me get this stuff on hands. I really actually want to build a 2200G setup. And I've tried reaching out to vendors, but I do kind of piss people off with some of my videos. And I understand that. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to do that effectively, because I want to do a video series on that for people that don't want to invest a ton of money into gaming and show them what they can actually do. Like, trying to play Assassin's Creed Origins on a 2200G to me is stupid. So I'd rather show, hey, why don't you play like Ion Maiden, or why don't you play anything else that'll actually run. So that's something that I'd like to do. Alrighty, I gotta get some water. Usually when recording videos, you know, you take a little break. Spiky Pup, thanks for dropping by, buddy. Enjoy your Easter. Let's see, what do we got here? Stand still. I don't know if they can really get to 5 gigahertz. I think it might be possible. We just have to see how their 12 nanometer works. We'll know real quick with the 2700, and especially the 2700, not the 2700X. However far that can go. If that can get up to probably 4.6, 4.7, then yeah, I guarantee you they can hit 5 gigahertz. Any thoughts on Navi? I think Navi is necessary for AMD. We don't really know anything about it. I mean, it's all speculation here, but we all believe it's going to be some sort of MCM, multi-chip module, basically Ryzen on GPUs. Personally, I think the smart thing for them to do is on 7 nanometers, you produce basically a RX 580 level chip, which should be about 100 nanometers, about half the size of the current RX 580, and then you can link up to 4 of them. And we're not talking about crossfire with crossfire scaling. Through Infinity Fabric, scaling's 90+%. So imagine if you had, let's say, about 3 to 3.5 times the horsepower of an RX 580. That would very easily be able to compete with whatever Nvidia is going to have, and you can do it at a much lower price because a 100 die GPU or 100 millimeter squared die GPU is very, very cheap and just inexpensive. So linking them 4 of those together, you're going to have high yields, low cost, and they could sell them at pretty much whatever price that they wanted to. And that could really help AMD make a lot of money, make them very profitable. So even if Nvidia does have a faster product, they could sell theirs for so much less. I'm hoping that it's basically like the Radeon 4000 series. They'll run cooler, cheaper, and they should be competitive. But once again, this is basing everything off on what ifs and maybes, and who knows what's actually going to happen. For Volta GPUs, all right. Irene Storm, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there. Sorry, buddy. It seems interesting. Try to rephrase that, please. Ryzen not needing to hit 5 gigahertz? No, they don't. But it's one of those perception kind of things. If you can get close to your competition in the big numbers, you know, it doesn't matter if it's somebody like DeBauer or somebody huge, you know, a professional overclocker hits it. Just the fact that it can do it, it's the mind share thing. It's the market share. It's kind of what we were talking about in the last video, where, you know, as gamers get older, they have more disposable income. They technically, you know, they want the premium products. And that's just the way things tend to go. You know, like, I don't buy the cheapo knockoff brand on certain foods anymore because I can afford, you know, to spend the extra 50 cents and get the name brand because I think it tastes better. But, you know, a few years ago I couldn't. So that's the reason why I think 5 gigahertz is kind of important. Alrighty, let's see. Tech Bloodbath. Thanks, buddy. Happy Easter. Aaron, another $5. Thank you, sir. I mean, if you want to be like half a partner, you know, if you want to contribute to the channel, that'd be great, man. Are there any solid leaks suggesting that there will be a 2800X? There aren't any, no. The only thing that I've seen so far is just speculation. It is just speculation. It's just like the, but I guess there is solid evidence that there's going to be an 8-core Intel chip. So it's just a marketing thing. That's the reason why we all think that it's going to happen. It's a very speculative thought, but because of the way that these companies typically compete with each other, they want to have some sort of answer on hand. That's the reason why we think that. It may not be true. There might be no answer to Intel's 8-core CPU from AMD, but like I said, it would just seem kind of strange that they would just eliminate that naming scheme entirely. Stand still. Infinity Fabric over HBM. They're two different things. You can connect HBM via Infinity Fabric if you wanted to. So I'm not quite sure what your question is there. I do think that AMD is going to stick with HBM. I think that they're really going to want to promote that because it does get them in those smaller form factors, like with the, was it the 8709G from Intel? That's, you know, that's actually a market that AMD can really excel. And what I find strange is that they don't have their own APU with 20-ish compute cores. It might be something that they worked out with Intel, and there might be an agreement that they can't compete on that level just yet. But when Zen 2 comes out, and if they can get 8 cores onto one CCX, if you can get a mobile 8-core 16-thread CPU with essentially like a Vega 32 into an Ultrabook, that would be freaking awesome. And the only way that they're going to really be able to do that is using HBM. So I think they're going to stick with that. Yuri Modin, you think that they're going to have issues with that? I'm sure that there's a lot of issues using the Infinity Fabric and cross CCX talk and everything else, but that's for them to figure out. That's why they make the big bucks. If I could figure it out, I'd just go start my own GPU manufacturing company and kick the shit out of everybody. But, you know, that's not my area of forte. So they have very smart people that they're paying a lot of money to figure that out. Thoughts on if they did a Threadripper 2900X with Vega on package like an APU? I don't think so. Threadripper's the premium high-end. I mean, Intel doesn't have integrated GPUs on their high-end CPUs either, so I don't think that that's going to happen. Excuse me, guys. All right, Caesar, can I ask what happened to your Patreon? When I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do this anymore, I took it down. I didn't want to be taking money from anybody when I wasn't sure on what was going to happen with the channel. Now that, you know, we're continuing and I'm going to have more free time, which is awesome. So moving forward, I will eventually bring it back, but I'd like to hit probably around the 20,000 sub mark, because I just want there to be enough of an audience to where it's actually worth it. Because last time I was only getting like 20-ish bucks a month, and honestly, I mean, it's helpful over the course of a couple months. It helps subsidize all the GPUs and stuff that I bought last year, but I ended up spending like $5 or $6 grand on hardware last year, and that wasn't, you know, $20, $30 a month wasn't offsetting that. So I want to build up the channel more, build up the base, build the community, have more fun with you guys, and then eventually I'll bring it back. So like these live streams, I'll probably do one once a month for the general public, but I'll probably do one like every other week with the patrons and stuff like that, because I didn't really do anything special for the patrons last time. So I want to do something for them next time around. So I want to make sure everything's in place to do that. All right, CyberClue, do you think most vendors will send microcode BIOS updates to older CPUs like Intel Sandy Bridge to patch Spectre? Or will they just sell those off? They actually said that they were going to support Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge, so they should be coming out eventually. I remember reading that a few weeks ago. I could try to look it up for you and maybe post a link. Can somebody do that? That news broke a little while ago. If one of you guys could do that and post it in the chat for CyberClue, that'd be great. Irene Storm. Oh, that ray tracing demo was using 4 Titan Vs. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you do a tech demo and you're trying to show stuff off. Typically, you know, you use better hardware than... You're trying to predict future hardware is what they're doing. So, yeah, if that's the case, I actually didn't catch that. If they were using 4 Titan Vs, that means there's really no way that they're going to be bringing consumer Volta to 12 nanometer. They'd have to wait for 7, and it would have to be obviously much stronger. Now, it's up to game developers to figure out how that they're going to implement the ray tracing. That's on them. So, there's going to be ways to probably do it cheaper and use less GPU resources. So, it's new stuff. That's why I put out those videos, and I was very excited. I appreciate anything that's new in the PC gaming community, and especially when we're moving things forward. Now, there's a lot of games out there that are really nice, that aren't graphically demanding, that are a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of people still play like CSGO, and heck, there's still people playing CS 1.6. So graphics aren't everything, but it's nice to have those options, especially on high-end AAA titles. All right, I have a question. This is from Nameless Hollow. Just bought an R9 290 for $200 even. Is there any reason to snap up an RX 580 when they get down to 200, or just wait for Vega 56 to get somewhere around 400? I would wait for Vega 56 because the R9 290 and an RX 580, you're looking at maybe a 15-ish% performance jump. Personally, I know a lot of people freak out when they see higher benchmarks. Doesn't matter what it is. But if you're not getting at least a 30 or 40% boost, it's not worth an upgrade. That's just my personal opinion. What we got? Okay, Standstill. Thank you, buddy. For your 2200G. Off to eat. Joined your Discord. Thank you, buddy. That's really nice. That's super helpful. I actually have some cash saved up, and that's going to help get me all the way there. Yeah, anything that you guys don't, that's basically where it's going to go. It's going to go to the 2200G setup. I just really don't want to buy more RAM. RAM is so damn expensive. Like, I can find good motherboards, and then obviously the 2200G is a steal. But when you're spending you're spending exactly the same amount of money on the CPU as you are just 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's just a tough pill to swallow. That's why I was like, all right, I've never reached out to vendors before, but I think it might be time. I need a little assistance here because that's just hard to do. It's hard for me to do anyway. You're emoting. Bring Patreon back. I'll sign up again. Well, I appreciate that. It will come back. Like I said, I want to have everything in place, and I want to make it worth it for you guys to become patrons. You know, there has to be a tangible benefit for you, and then this way I feel better about it. Like, I felt really bad, you know, having that, and then every month getting a couple bucks from everybody, and then, you know, maybe I'd spent like $300 or $400 the month before on hardware, and I'm like, this is just going to help recover that money. And there wasn't any tangible benefit. So it will come back, but I want to make sure that it's worth it, and I feel like it's a good value for everybody. All right. GGCHB. Sorry, I'm just going to have to read that out because I have no idea what you're trying to go for there. 2 questions. Will the Z390 PCI 4? We already kind of talked about that. I don't think so. And will upcoming 8-core Intels work on Z370? Well, it was back in October, I believe. It was a German OEM. Once again, I don't remember this off the top of my head, but they basically said that they were going to they were going to skip Z370 and go straight to Z390 because it would have 8-core support. That was the first time that we ever heard anything about Intel doing a mainstream 8-core. So it seems highly unlikely that it will be officially supported on Z370. Now, the community will probably hack the board and make it work, but in reality, it's not going to be something that's going to be regularly supported. And that's one of the things that I did not like about Coffee Lake, is because before Coffee Lake came out, we already had the assumption that there was going to be an 8-core capable Z390 board out there. And to me, it's just not worth it. You're limiting your upgrade path by going with a Z370 when the Z390 was already basically leaked. Aaron, man, you're basically supporting everything here. He's got to go. Hopes we have a great Easter. Thank you, sir. Bring Patreon back. Hopefully, we can put a good dent in the APU build. You guys have done a fantastic job, so I'm going to have to get to shopping after we get off of here. And that's great because I'm trying to partner up with GOG and do some other stuff and bring out some really cool videos for you guys. Yeah, I mean, TGOG and GOG, I mean, it just makes sense. So I'm trying to get working with those guys over there. But thank you very much for everybody who's donated. That's awesome. I was not expecting that. I hope everybody's having a great Easter. Let's see. Was GPC graphics per clock great? It didn't continue. Yeah, I like the GPC thing. It just got expensive. That's kind of what I was referring to when I was saying like I was burning like $400 or $500 a month. And it was like GPUs and stuff that honestly I didn't need for anything else. So yeah, GPC we could probably do. I really actually want to do a Vega 56 versus a 1080 Ti because they have the same FP32 core count. I'd like to see where they stack up clock for clock, just so we have a very good metric right there. Some very expensive hardware, so I'm planning on doing a Vega 56, and maybe I can borrow a 1080 Ti from somebody. So that'd be really cool. So that might be something that we do there. All right, Caesar, what's your favorite YouTube tech channels? Okay, I was actually going to do a couple videos on that, but TechSpot, everybody knows that I reference them a lot. I really appreciate Steve Walton and the information that he puts out there. There's actually a lot more reasons why. The biggest thing is he actually, before anybody else, was doing CPU testing. You know, back in the day when everybody's like, an i5 is great, and you don't need anything else, nobody really benchmarked CPU bottlenecking or anything, but Steve did, and that's how I got into TechSpot. So I obviously really respect Hardware Unboxed. Phil's Computer Lab, that's one of my favorite YouTube tech channels. He looks at a lot of retro hardware, and that's great. Like, for me, it's just a big nostalgic kick. You know, he'll just make these builds. He'll try to get, like, you know, AMD Athlon 64s running Windows 98, and just really cool and out-of-the-box thinking there. So I really appreciate his channel. And then another channel that I really, really like is GGG Man Lives, or Man Lives. Basically, he's a first-person shooter reviewer, and he's honestly one of my favorite reviewers, game reviewers out there. So any game he reviews, I really appreciate that, and I watch his video before I actually would buy pretty much anything, so that's great. Let's see. Stand still, you have a spare kit of RAM. That'd be pretty cool, man. We can definitely work something out. I can borrow it, you know, and send it back, or I can float you some cash. We'll figure something out. Just go ahead and send me a message or stay on Discord, and I'll get with you later on that, all right? Thank you, sir. All right, let's see. Chrono Cave, happy Easter, buddy. Sorry, I'm kind of going through a little bit older comments here, but I want to make sure that all the good ones are addressed. That's why we're doing this. All right. All right, so K-Swiss HD, Gamers Nexus said that Hynix are going to mass produce GDDR6 in about 3 months. And Nvidia is likely to drop a new generation around that time frame. I saw that the other day, and that's very speculative. So everybody's saying, hey, GDDR6 will be available at this point, so GPUs will immediately be produced. Typically, that's not how it goes. If mass production starting now and availability of it will start at that point, usually that's when the OEMs and AIBs and everybody are going to start building the actual graphics cards. So I bet you the marketing will start around then, but I really think that Q3 or very late Q2 is probably more likely. So August, September-ish would be my guess. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just usually the way it goes. Once the product's available, or the part's available, it takes a little while to integrate that into the actual product. So that's just my thought. I wouldn't be expecting them that soon, but it's not going to be that much longer. Probably just a couple extra months, and they'll be hyping everything up before then. So who knows? We might have all the information we need, much like with Pascal. They basically came out a month later after that they announced them. I just think it'll be something similar to that, but it might be like 2 months instead. Disarm Scroll. Yeah, the GPC testing, I really found it interesting. The videos themselves didn't do very well. That's why I was like, I'm dumping a lot of money into this hardware, and it wasn't really producing a lot of views. But I found it interesting. That's why I kept doing it. And I actually have some numbers still that I could put up for, I think it was it Gen 2? GCN Gen 2 versus Maxwell, I think. I never did a video on it, but I do have all the benchmarks and I do have the numbers. So if that's something you guys really want to see, I could do a video on that. I could put the graphs together and we could do something on that one. All right, algorithm. I have a few games that Just won't die if they ran on an i5. Well, yeah. What's going on, Xavier? Tyler Wood, hello. Cyberclue, yeah. I didn't realize everybody in here was going to be a big GGG Manlives fan. I mean, he does great stuff, so I'm glad to see that a lot of you guys check out his stuff. This way I can reference him a little bit more. Pizza Face Dave. First memory stick was 4 megabytes, and that cost you $220. Yeah, my first PC had 1 megabyte of RAM, and my dad spent, I think, like $2,000 on the thing. So things have definitely changed. I remember back then RAM was really crazy, though. Yeah, just putting RAM in your system was a huge expense. Alrighty, the Varangian. So that's Joe, for anybody who doesn't know. Should you upgrade your 6700K to a 2800X? I've already told you this. You don't need to upgrade quite yet. Or should you snag an 1180 Ti when that comes out? Probably not. I mean, if it's a Volta GPU or... I mean, honestly, your setup is done. I know you want to burn money. And I've done videos and videos and videos. You don't need to spend money. You have a 1080 Ti and a 6700K. You're good. You're going to be good for a little while. I would wait for Zen 2 to come out, see what that does. I would also probably wait till Navi comes out, because 1080 Ti is going to make it another year, year and a half, no problem. So I just wouldn't worry about upgrading right now. Joe, I'll talk to you later, man. Quit spamming, buddy. All right, disarm scroll. So you want to see that GPC vid? Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. I have more free time now, so I can definitely get that other GPC vid up for you. What's going on, VR? I like the name. That's really easy. No confusion there. Let's see. Yeah, Xavier, 128 megs. I remember when that was huge. I actually remember when Rise of the Triad came out and it required 8 megabytes of RAM, and I almost like vomited because my system had 1 and I couldn't even run Doom, which required 4. Now we had games that were running or requiring 8 megabytes. I was like, screw it. I'm like, I can't afford that. I was a kid. I was like 10 or something. You know, raking yards did not bring a lot of income in. Techno 1200, I agree. Pre-ordering is a bad idea. I definitely agree with that. Yuri Morden, or Modin, 7700 9K, 1080, G-Sync, ultra wide. No up. Yeah, I wouldn't upgrade either, buddy. You're doing just fine there. All right, Paul, you got me beat with an 8088. I had an 286. That was my first. So you started even before I did as a kid there. So there's always somebody older and better. So we're all getting there. We're all becoming good old gamers. And thank you everybody who went ahead and did that poll. It was very interesting to see the kind of age range that we're working with, and it's actually very diverse here on the channel. So I was really happy to see that you know, we're reaching a broader audience, and that's kind of what I'm going for. You know, sometimes the channel gets divisive, and sometimes the comments will affect me personally and the way that I'm thinking, and sometimes, like the last video came off a little bit harsh, or maybe it was the one before that, and I felt a little bit bad about that. But sometimes that's just how I feel, and that's how it goes. But I'm glad to see that we're reaching a pretty broad audience. Yeah, algorithm, all these people with 1080 Ti's wanting upgrades. That's kind of my point. That's the marketing doing its job. And basically people want what they don't have. And everybody wants faster. And that's the reason why I did that last video saying, you know, the more money that we make, you know, if I'd spent $750 on a video card 10 years ago, I would pretty much ride that thing till it caught fire. And I'd overclock it until it literally caught fire because I wasn't spending any more money. But, you know, if you're pulling in $2,000 a week, you know, it's not that big of a deal, really. You know, when the new one comes out, you just buy it. So it's definitely different the older people get. What's going on, Landstrike? Do you think we'll see 12-core CPUs on AM4 next year if AMD uses TSMC? They're still going to use GlowFlow, I think, for their CPUs, but it's still going to be 7 nanometers. But according to AMD, the difference between Intel's process and GlowFlow's 7 nanometers and Intel's 10 nanometers is basically non-existent. Whether that's actually true or not, we'll have to find out. But I actually think that we will have 8-core CCXs, so the possibility of 16-core, 32-thread AM4 CPUs, I believe, is actually there. With the massive die shrink, and as long as the power consumption doesn't balloon up, I think that that's actually very much possible, at least on the high end. And then you'll have 32-core Threadrippers and then 64-core Epics. That's just my thought. All right. Chrono Cave TV. Notice my 3 messages earlier. I did not. If you can retype it, like sometimes we get a lot of messages all at once and then, you know, I have to continue on. So sometimes, I'm sorry, I can't go through each and every single one of these sometimes. It just pulls me down. Xavier, thanks. Rant all I want. It's good for us. Well, that's kind of my thought behind it is if I bring up a topic that might feel uncomfortable and make people think, that's really my only goal, is to get people to think. And it's actually hilarious. Sometimes I'll see comments where it's like, well, you didn't provide all the information. You didn't tell me step by step everything that's going on here. And I'm like, that's not what I do. It's my job to help give you my opinion on what's already going on. It's your job to stay informed. Like, I'll bring up the big overarching information and I'll put links in the description, but yeah, there's some people that want to be led by the nose, and yeah, so that's why I do some of those rants, is basically just to get that information across. Damn it, Joe. Let's see. Chrono Cave TV. My first PC was an old E-Machines. I remember selling those. It had 64 megabytes RAM. Terrible experience with Windows 98. You were a kid back then. Yeah, I was going to say that's probably late 90s there then. Probably had a Celeron in it too. E-Machines weren't the worst thing ever. They actually, surprisingly enough, they put better components in their pre-built systems than a lot of the other companies, at least when I was selling them, and that was in the early 2000s at Best Buy. But yeah, I mean, there were some bad ones too. Yeah, I can understand copy and pasting getting a little annoying there, buddy. Caesar, rewatched old video the other week. It got more dislikes about the Core i5 and faster graphics cards at higher refresh, and you completely agree. I mean, it makes sense now. I don't know why people, you know, nowadays have an issue with that video. I mean, it's very evident that using a Core i5 and a 1080 Ti at 1080p on a 144 hertz or 240 hertz monitor is going to be a problem. But back then, that was about 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago now, when we did that video. And yeah, I caught all kinds of hell about that. But I knew that's where things were going. That was actually one of the reasons why I started the channel, because I noticed with my i5 that I had at the time, I had a 4690 K, and it was overclocked. It was bottlenecking in Witcher 3. And I'm like, if this is having problems, other i5s are going to be having problems, because, you know, especially like a 2500 non-K, and you have reviewers out there just kept saying, no, this is perfectly fine. This is great. This is all you need. It's like, the writing's on the wall, guys. It's not getting any better. We're getting more CPU demanding. So that's why I did that video. It did cause a lot of problems, but you know, it helped a lot of people out too. So a lot of people that were on the fence between an i5 or an i7, hopefully they spent the extra money and got the i7. But now that we have Ryzen out, it really doesn't matter. I mean, 4-core, 8 threads like the bare minimum. And in all honesty, I wouldn't really recommend anything with less than 6 cores. All right, VR. Chris, do you think that Intel will be a player in discrete graphics? That's a really good question. I do. I think that they see the market, especially with this latest mining craze. Let's be realistic. It's dying right now, but it will come back. There's so many different currencies out there. There's a lot of money in it. Yeah, I think that they want a piece of the GPU market because Intel hates Nvidia more than everybody, pretty much. They really don't like Nvidia, and they really hate the fact that they're encroaching on their mega, supercomputer territory that Intel makes a crap ton of money. So, yeah, they're definitely going to want to go ahead and get into that market. Raja moving over, that's obviously the reason why he's there, is to help them sort that out and get started. So, yeah, I would very much expect to see Intel GPUs within the next 5 to 10 years. Like real GPUs. All right, so Martin, let's see. At what point does having multiple CPU cores at 6 cores and higher see diminishing returns? Sorry, people are scrolling. On future games and gaming. Well, this is really ultimately going to come down to the next-gen consoles. We currently have 8-core CPUs in the current-gen consoles, which means that a very high-clocked 8-thread CPU is going to pretty much handle business very well. Now, having more cores, real cores, like having 8 real physical cores, is better. And turning hyper-threading off. That's why with Ryzen CPUs, like if you have like a 2700 or a 1700 or whatever, games tend to run better without the hyper-threading because then the code's trying to be stretched too far currently. It really depends on what the next-gen consoles do. I think that they're going to be 8-core, 16-thread Zen 2s. Just like how I said, that should be a single CCX at that point, if everything goes according to plan. Don't quote me on this. This is just my opinion. But if they go that route, that means sticking with an 8-core 16-thread CPU. That's going to be where you're going to want to be, either Intel or AMD, because games will be programmed to take advantage of 16 threads. Having more cores isn't going to be really necessary unless you're doing multitasking, like streaming or something else. But at that point, I think CPU core counts are going to get so high that an 8-core 16 thread is going to be like how we feel about a 4-core 8-thread today. So, it'll be kind of more of a mid-range $150, $200 CPU, and then we'll start seeing like 16-core CPUs around that $400 mark. So that's just kind of my thoughts. Is that how it's going to go? I don't know, but that's how I see things moving forward. All right, Joe Time UK. Looking for a new monitor to go with my 980 Ti, 144 Hz 1080p, but can't find any IPS panels. Would go G-Sync, but is it worth the extra $200? Honestly, yeah. Adaptive Sync is worth every penny. I tested those out last year. I had a FreeSync going and a G-Sync. They both work identically. Like FreeSync versus G-Sync, not worth more money. But if you have an Nvidia graphics card, is it worth having adaptive sync? That's the real question, because you're not having the FreeSync G-Sync conversation. You're having adaptive sync or not. And I absolutely think that it's worth it because your frame rate doesn't need to be maintained at such a high rate. It can get lower and you don't notice it. It's just a fantastic technology. So yeah, getting high refresh IPS, that's kind of tough. Those get expensive. I know Asus has them, but you're looking at like $700, $800 or more for such a monitor. I used the Dell 27-inch 1440p 144 Hz monitor. Those can be had here in the States for about 400 bucks when they're on sale. Bang for the buck, that's the best monitor to go with for G-Sync in my opinion, but it's not IPS. So if you do like video editing or photo editing or anything like that, that might not work for you, but if it's just for gaming, that would be my recommendation. Landstrike Gaming, I feel the reviewers are really just advertising free stuff that vendors send them. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's one of the reasons why I never reached out to vendors, is because I didn't want to be beholden to anybody and have to push a product and then be like, this is the best thing ever. It sucks. But you have to buy it. That's not me. I would give everything an honest review. You know, if I like it, I'll let you know it's a good product and I think it's good for the money. Or if it's junk, I'll let you guys know that. But a lot of people out there, they want you to click those Amazon affiliate links. That's how most of these guys make most of their money. See, I actually have other jobs. That's how I make most of my money. This right here, this is fun. This is a hobby. This is what I do in my downtime because I enjoy it and I enjoy reading your guys' thoughts, getting your opinions on things. For me, this is just fun. This is what I do to relax. It's kind of funny, but it is. All right, ChronoCav TV. Nowadays, I'm satisfied with my current Ryzen build and still upgrading GPU and RAM. Well, I mean, it's always good once you're satisfied. I mean, that's the thing. Most of the time, you don't need to upgrade. You especially don't need to upgrade every CPU generation because they don't change that much gen to gen. GPUs can be worth it, but like I said, if you're not getting at least 40% more performance, it's not really worth it. So, like, the 1080 Ti going to, like, let's say the Titan V was only $1,200 instead of $3,000. It's about 30-ish% faster in gaming. Is that worth it? You know, the extra $500, would that be a worthy successor? In my opinion, it's not. But Nvidia has time to tweak, you know, gaming drivers and things like that. If you're not getting at least a 40% bump, it's just wait, skip a generation, and get, you know, like an 80, 90, 100% bump for the same amount of money. At that point, it's definitely worth it. Tommy Echo Tech, you were shocked by how prevalent VR is. You were in New York at the International Auto Show, and seemingly everyone had VR. My new job has VR. It was actually kind of amusing because I didn't realize up in the entryway they had a PSVR. For auto shows or like homes and things like that, I absolutely think that VR is going to kill it. You know, imagine if you just went to your realtor office and just put on a headset and you could take a virtual tour of a home that's on the other side of the world. There's a lot of really, really tangible uses for VR. I think VR for gaming isn't really much more than a gimmick. That's my opinion. Some people really love it. They have the VR rooms in their home and they have fun with it. And that's great. It's nice to have that option. And, you know, at least we're at that point now where you do have that choice if you want to do it. I just don't think it's going to catch on so much for gaming. But for other things and other aspects of the world, especially in business, there are a lot of use cases where I can see that being useful. ChronoCav TV. Yeah, still waiting to get a 1080 Ti or something similar for $200 or less. Do not buy a 1050 Ti. My bad. Yeah, 1080 Ti at $200 would be fantastic. I think everybody watching this would just go buy one if that was a thing. It's like, I hate Nvidia, but got to do it. Yeah, 1050 Ti's, in all honesty, to me, at this point in the life cycle, it's really hard to justify over MSRP for such a card because it can't even really do 1080p 60 on all games, not on high settings or better. It has enough VRAM, but it just doesn't have the horsepower. In reality, the GTX 770 that I bought a few months ago was a better deal because I got it for $100 and it's faster than the 1050 Ti. So in reality, if you can wait a little bit longer, the RX 570, if those come back anywhere near MSRP, that's a better deal. Or go with a GTX 1063 gig. I've done videos. I don't really like the card because it's VRAM limited, but it's not really having an effect on current games, and you're going to get a crap ton more performance out of it. So if you can avoid the 1050 Ti and go with something stronger for under $200, I would try to do that. All right, so Green Tech. Do you think I need a better cooler than the Wraith Spire on my R5 1600 at 3.8 with a 1.3 volt V-core? No, that'll actually work. I used it on my Ryzen 7 1700. I was able to get it up to 3.8 at about the same voltages, and temperatures were reasonably well under control. So you don't need a better cooler, but if you find a good deal, you know, maybe a 120 millimeter tower cooler for like 15 bucks, they go on sale pretty regularly. I would pick it up. But is it a need? No. Would it be helpful? Yes. Well, alrighty, guys, we're going to take just a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to get on out of here and finish up my Easter. But this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad that the stream's working properly. My dumbass was the one who screwed it up last time, so luckily in the future with new guests, that won't be a problem. All right, Nameless Hollow, $79.70 for $130, $150 is an awesome deal at the market. I don't know, man. Prices are coming down. It's one of those, right now, I would really wait at least 2, maybe 4 weeks. Like, I need a better GPU. You know, I'm building a new system. Putting the 770 in there is not going to cut it. But I'm going to hold off for about a month and kind of see where we're at. If prices do start ticking up, yeah, then buy something almost immediately. But for the most part, I think they're going to continue to go down and at least be somewhere close to MSRP. They're still going to play that whole, the RAM's still expensive game, and they're still going to cost more. It's going to happen. But at the very least, they'll be much better than they are, you know, currently. All right, Landstrike. Chris, any thoughts on the critical mass for cores and CPU chips? Additionally, if not more cores, is the next evolution of, I mean, basically you're asking what do they do next? Instead of, you know, what are they going to do? Have 120 core CPUs? I don't think that's really going to work out either. There's only so much that they can spread out a workload without relying heavily on a single core. What's coming next? That's anybody's guess. It looks like quantum computing is not really going to be what we all thought it was 10 years ago. You know, they already have quantum CPUs, and they're really good at doing what they do. I read into it a little bit, but it's not really my area of expertise. But it doesn't look like it's going to be something that's mainstream. So what comes next? I don't know. Hopefully we find out. But in the meantime, I think we're going to get to that happy point where 8 cores, 16 threads for mainstream users is probably going to be more than enough for a long time. And then for more enthusiast users, 16 core, 32 threads. So like for somebody like me, that would be perfect for video editing and multitasking. Past that, like I said, we'll just have to see what they come up with. That's their job. It's their job to innovate. That's why Intel and AMD, they make the money that they make. It's because it's their job to figure out where to move the market from there. All right. Quantisha, what is your view on buying pre-built as of right now? My best friend got one because of Bitcoin thing. Yeah. I don't like them. It depends. It depends on where you buy them from. See, a lot of people will just go to Best Buy and pick up something and be like, hey, you know, I'm good. Now, if you can go to a vendor, a pre-built vendor that's going to put in the motherboard that you want, the RAM type that you want, the power supply that you want, as long as you're getting what you want, then yeah, that's a good way to go. And if you get it at a somewhat decent price. But if you're buying, like I said, like a Dell or something like that, typically the case isn't going to be that great. Power supply is not going to be that great. It's going to be cheap RAM, cheap motherboard. Processor is going to be just fine. And then, of course, the GPU is going to be usually a reference design. To me, that's not really worth it for saving a couple of bucks. So with the prices coming down, like I said, I'd give it about a month before jumping on that ship. If you're like, I absolutely need something today. I mean, I just showed you, you'll be paying a little bit of a premium on like a 1060 or a 580. But honestly, I'd rather pay that premium and get the parts that I want. if you can't get it pre-built at a place that's going to get you the parts that you'd want. Cyberclue, I'll catch you in the next video, buddy. Alright, so I think I'll go through here. We'll take one more, and then I'm going to go finish this bottle of water. This is a lot harder to do for like an hour long. You know, when you do a video, it's only like 20 minutes, and then, you know, then you edit. This is definitely different. I need to have the guests on here so they can talk. Joe, get your butt on here. That's really what needs to happen. Everybody go to the Varangian, go to his website, and just harass him. Be like, you need to be on the next live stream. I need to get Joe on here. Chrono Cav, that's why I wanted to do this, buddy. Glad you pitched out all the questions that you did. We had a good response. And yeah, I was gonna say Zen Plus, if you already have a decent video card, I mean a decent CPU, just hold off. Wait for Zen 2. Well, alrighty guys, looks like everybody's kind of questioned out. Thank you, Yuri. Appreciate you guys being here with me, sharing your holiday. Hope the rest of you guys have a great day. And if you're here in the States, it's getting to be about dinner time in most of the time zones. So go eat, enjoy, be merry, go game if you don't. That's basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find me something to go shoot. It's typically the game type that I go for. Well, alrighty guys, that's it for me for today. And I will catch you guys in the next video.